To the association, the L in Lakers without LeBron stands for L. Make that 2 straight L's without the King, 3 straight in general. Despite Luka dropping 45 and 11, the most he's had this season, and in LA, the Milwaukee Bucks snapped their 3-game skid with a 126-106 win. Next up for the Lakers, a meeting tonight with the Denver Nuggets. Now, since LeBron went down with that groin injury, the Lakers have struggled without him. Not only have they lost both games, but they've been outscored by an average of 11 points in that span. On top of that, they've also struggled near the boards, being out-rebounded in both games as well without LeBron. We welcome in NBA analyst Tim Legler. Okay, so Legs, in what you saw the Lakers do last night, what concerns you the most about this team moving forward?
Listen, their defense was a major issue last night. It was just soft and passive, no resistance whatsoever. Milwaukee did whatever they wanted to. LeBron James, until he's out there and fully healthy, he's the guy that they're missing right now to give them more versatility defensively. The ground he covers, a number of guys he can cover. There's just the physical strength. You mentioned the rebounding numbers. LeBron James is one of the best defensive rebounding small forwards in the league. So you add all that up. Right now, without him, their biggest challenge is going to be the defensive end of the floor. And you saw the numbers that they're giving up without him. This team started playing great defense even before the Luka trade. Over the last 6 weeks or so, they have really climbed the ladder in the Western Conference in terms of their overall team defense. That was not there last night. And that, to me, has got to be the major point of emphasis when J.J. Redick gets into that film room, because he's made great strides with this team defensively. But last night, that was a very porous, soft defensive effort against Milwaukee. And they've got to go a number of games now without LeBron. They've got to pick it up on that end.
Yeah, and that was one of the biggest questions that we had, was their defense and whether or not Luka would be able to fill some gaps on the defensive end as well. Tim Legler, thank you. We'll be back to own. The Chef has made 4,000 3-pointers in his career, knocking down the 4,000th in the third quarter from 28 feet, becoming the first player in NBA history to reach that milestone. He only needed 2 threes entering the night to make history, and the Warriors got the win over the Kings as a cherry on top. Here is Curry after the game.
To have a clean milestone in 4K, that's obviously never been done before, but to have that moment in front of your fans like that was special. I could feel the energy and the buzz. From the beginning of the game, after I made my first 3, even the second one I shot and missed, like it was an adrenaline rush, and they were with me every moment of the game tonight. And when that second one went in, I knew there's a lot of game left, so I tried to not get too ahead of myself, but it was a special moment to feel that energy and allow them to enjoy that milestone and accomplishment with me.
So Steph has now hit 4,000 3-pointers in his career, but what about reaching 5,000? Based on his career 3-point pace, Steph has 254 games away from getting to 5,000. He turns 37 today. So if he can stay healthy, he could hit that mark in less than 4 seasons. Can he achieve that goal? Stephen A. Smith with our last take.
I tell you he could do it. He just has to last, meaning his condition and being in shape to do it. That's where I'm at with it. He is the only person in NBA history, which is why I call him the greatest shooter God has ever created. He is the only player in NBA history that you literally have to man up on the second he steps past half court, because he can pull up from 40. It's who he is. I mean, he's that great. It took you 3 seasons to get from 3,000 to 4,000. Okay, let's say it's going to take you that much now. He just turned 37 today. Happy birthday. Today is his birthday. His 37th birthday. And so you look at it from that standpoint, he'd have to get to 40. Can he continue to move like that over the next 3 years? Can he continue to run around like that over the next 3 years? The question is, A, can he stay healthy enough to play and launch that many shots per game over the next 3 to 3.5 years? We don't know the answer to that question. Do I believe he can if he really, really wants to? Sure. But this brother has accomplished a lot in life, and you never know when he might deem it time to just walk away. And it might be inside the next 3 years. We just don't know that at this moment in time. He's got 2 years left on his deal. My point is, if he plays the next 3.5 years, and he's averaging 11.2 3-point shots per game in that span,
And with that, we head over to the association to see what's in store for tonight. The Celtics, they head south as they take on the Miami Heat at 7 Eastern. It's been a bit of a one-sided rivalry recently as the Celtics has won the last 5 regular season meetings, including the last 2 by double digits. Meanwhile, the Cavs, they look to make history as they visit Ja Morant and the Grizzlies. Cleveland has won its last 15 games and could set a new franchise record for consecutive wins if they defeat Memphis tonight. And at 9:30, the Lakers visit the Nuggets. Luka Doncic looking to help snap the Lakers' 3-game losing streak, but he's got to be better with the ball. Doncic has at least 5 turnovers in his last 7 games, the longest streak by a Laker since Magic Johnson in 1984. And here's where things stand in terms of the playoff picture out west. OKC a big lead as a top seed in the conference, but the 2nd and 3rd seed could be jockeying as the Grizzlies and Nuggets are just separated by a tiebreaker. Golden State currently hanging on to the final playoff spot in the West as the Timberwolves lurking right behind them. And with that, we bring back Tim Legler. Okay, so who do you see as the biggest threat to the Thunder in the West?
Well, I'm going to give you an answer, but I'm also going to have a caveat to that. All right. So the answer right now is the Denver Nuggets. I think because of the unique nature of Jokic and what he brings, how difficult he is to match up, the way he controls the game. Jamal Murray, even though he's had a couple of off nights against teams in high-profile games recently, overall has looked like the Jamal Murray from their championship season. Christian Brown has made great strides. Michael Porter Jr. is having one of his best statistical years. So I don't love their depth, but overall I think it's Denver. Now, here's the caveat. I think the Lakers, once they get LeBron back, assuming they get him back and they're not too buried in the standings where they have to go on the road for 3 straight rounds, which might be difficult, the Lakers could be the way that they looked before LeBron got hurt. And then I also think the Golden State Warriors, you can't discount. I think right now, that spot, who's left standing against Oklahoma City, I think is wide open. But I think if you had to go with what I'm seeing right now today, it's the Denver Nuggets because they're the most complete. And I think the Jokic factor separates them from the other 2.
All right, let's go over to the East. The Cavs are going for 16 straight wins. Donovan Mitchell will be out for Cleveland for the 2nd straight game. So who needs to step up tonight if they're going to beat Memphis?
I think you rely on your front line. I think the pairing of Mobley and Allen has been really difficult for teams to deal with this year. They probably have the best symmetry between 2 legit bigs in this league. And then I also think Ty Jerome is a guy to keep an eye out for. They gave him a night off the other night for rest. He's back. And Ty Jerome has had a knack this year for stepping up when they have needed him to. If it's been Darius Garland having an off night or Donovan Mitchell or one of those guys getting rest, Ty Jerome has been a guy that has really opened eyes this year with his impact. He's gone from being a role player to an impact player. So don't be surprised if Ty Jerome has a big night in his absence.
The Cavs in general have been opening eyes for hoops fans across the nation. All right, Tim Legler, thank you so much.
Tyler Fulgham back here with us, and no Donovan Mitchell for the Cavaliers in this one. So what do you like in this Cavs-Grizzlies game?
Despite the absence of Mitchell, I mean, I still like the Cavaliers. I would lay the points with them on the road in Memphis against this Grizzlies team. It's already been moving in Cleveland's direction, so bet now if you like the Cavs before this gets even a bigger spread to cover. But I want to focus on Memphis as much as Cleveland here. Cleveland's riding that 15-game win streak. They're one of the best teams and the deepest teams in all of the NBA. Memphis has only covered one of their last 13 games. They have really been struggling. So when they have been matched up against great competition like Cleveland will be, even at home, I like this Cleveland side. What they have proven is they are deep and can handle anyone on any night, even if their best player is missing.
Yeah, they definitely can get it done without Donovan Mitchell out there on the floor. Meanwhile, Lakers have lost 3 in a row. Now head to Denver. What's the play there?
It's hard not to bet on the Nuggets in some way, shape, or form in this game. Now, they're laying 13.5. That's a big spread, but I almost am not afraid to do it. This is just a dreadful spot for the Los Angeles Lakers. They're playing their 2nd game in as many nights. Still no LeBron. Still no Rui Hachimura. Still no Jackson Hayes. Those are literally the 3 biggest players they have on their entire team. And we saw what Giannis did to them last night. So you imagine Jokic coming off that loss to the T-Wolves. He's going to be ticked off and try and get his team back the win column. They're at home. It's in elevation, just still completely banged up. Luka might even sit out because of how much he's played in recent days. So I just can't bet on the Lakers here. They're in a brutal spot of their schedule, and I see no light at the end of the tunnel, especially tonight.
The Lakers were doing so well at one point, and then they hit out there in the loss column. The injuries just cannot catch a break out there in LA. Tyler, thanks so much.
In Phoenix. And here was why. You were putting together a story that's a whopper.
If you haven't read this story yet, pause the pod and go read the story because it's an awesome story. And there's a ton of incredible quotes in it.
Yeah, that's why. The reason the story
I thought it was
so
because
good,
it was extremely well written.
No, it was just average.
It was an
writing.
awesome story, period.
It was very average
there's
writing.
a ton of incredible quotes in it.
There's
several multi-syllable words in there.
But yes, there was alliteration. I saw there was some beautiful alliteration in there. It's challenging to get quotes that are I guess maybe not critical, but
here's the thing. It's not challenging to get great quotes from Matt Ishbia. You just have to get him to agree to talk. And the guy is a fascinating. He is.
100%.
Yes, but you had good quotes from Matt Ishbia. You had good quotes from Bradley Beal. You had good quotes from Devin Booker. You had good quotes from other Suns people. I'm just going to toss you the ball and talk about this story, McMahon.
I mean, and look, the Suns are a team that, as you're talking to people around the league, let's be honest, there's a lot of shade being thrown at them. And Matt Ishbia is an extraordinarily brash billionaire who bought this team and has been just, all kinds of big splashes. They're the most expensive team in NBA history. They don't control their own draft picks now through the 2031 draft. And as of right now, they are sitting in 11th place, 2.5 games out of the final play-in in the Western Conference in a season in which, leading up to the trade deadline, they certainly engaged in discussions about dealing Kevin Durant. Despite the fact that Bradley Beal still has his no-trade clause, he was in trade discussions for most of the first half of the season. And the whole is nowhere near what the sum of the parts are. And, Ishbia is like, hey, also like Ishbia, the whole 26-29 thing that he said at the end of last season, 26-29 teams would trade players with me. And I asked him straight up, like, do you regret that? Do you still believe that? And he's like, not based on the results this season, but the Ishbia, the people working for him in Phoenix, there's a lot, they don't think they're as far away as the standings indicate. And, I'm just make of that what you will. They're not like giving up on the season, but of course this is an extraordinarily disappointing season. They're kind of hoping that it miraculously clicks and they get it together just in the nick of time. But we understand they understand where this season is right now. It is a colossal failure to this point. And essentially, this summer, everything is on the table for Phoenix, with the exception of a Devin Booker trade. Devin Booker, to borrow a Damian Lillard term, is 10 toes down in Phoenix. He really takes immense pride on being a one franchise guy. I'm not saying he's definitely spending his entire career in Phoenix. I'm saying he definitely wants to spend his entire career in Phoenix, and he's determined to see this thing through and get this thing back on the right side. And they are determined to do that with him.
You were asking Ishbia this exact question, and he cut you off.
Yeah. Listen, there, like, you talk to people around the league, Bontemps, there are definitely people around the league who are like, hey, you should absolutely listen to what the Rockets have to offer for Devin Booker, because the Rockets have what looks like is going to be a lottery pick from the Suns this year. And then they've got 27 and 29 as well. And so if the Suns want to rebuild, then they need to make a trade with the Houston Rockets and get the draft capital back. But Ishbia, I don't have the exact quote right in front of me, but it started off with something.
I got it right here.
Okay, the like to rebuild thing.
Oh, that one, yes. I thought this was, there were two quotes that I thought summed up the entire Matt Ishbia ownership experience. I thought this was one of them. This is about his thoughts on rebuilding. Quote, "It surprises me that other fans, they actually like the rebuilding process," Ishbia said, and McMahon had an emphasis on like.
He said they actually like the rebuild process. He almost spit when he said process.
Like, let's rebuild it. Are you crazy? You think I'm going to go for 7 years and try to get there? You enjoy the 2030 draft picks that we have holding? I want to try to see the game today. I want us to win today, and we're going to try. Although, let's say this doesn't work. Guess what? Maybe next year we won't be as good, but we're going to try again. The next opportunity we have, we're going to try and compete, and it might work. We will win championships here in Phoenix. It might not be this year, but I promise you we're going to do it, and that's what we're focused on.
Yeah, and look, as somebody close to Ishbia told me, there is no trust the process with Matt Ishbia. And he is like, dude, there's no patient rebuild here. It is going to be, I don't give a damn what it costs. We are all in every single season, foot on the gas, trying to be as good as possible every single year. We're going to win championships. And I think a lot of other people around the league would be like, that's counterproductive. If you don't have patience, you're not going to be able to put yourself in a position to win championships. But, Ishbia, the people in the front office there, the thing they push back on, there's a couple things they push back on. One, this idea that it's just Ishbia saying, do this, do this, do this. He's responsible for the philosophy, all in, and he's responsible for the financing. But as he said, you think I'm studying film? I'm not studying film. They tell me they like Ryan Dunn. I say, how can we get him? So they kind of, the picture of new owner syndrome dictator, that portrayal, they definitely push back on that. And then the other thing they push back on is that they say, hey, we have a lot of options. And I think a lot of people look at the draft capital that they've given
Tell
up,
me what the options are.
second apron restrictions and all that, and say, no, you really don't. Now, so, hey, one option that they've explored before the deadline, and certainly they are expected to explore again this summer, is trading Kevin Durant. Now,
yes, that's one option. What's the second option?
Now, Kevin Durant is going to have significant influence on potential destinations going in the last year of his contract, eligible for a 2-year extension. The Beal thing, obviously they have to work with Beal. They have
no options on that.
Yeah,
he has a full no trade clause.
That
isn't an option.
They have they gave up the 2031 pick to Utah. That's probably going to be 3 firsts from Cleveland. So they gave up one of those to get off of.
Yes, they have two. They have 3 extraordinarily low value draft picks.
Well, they already gave away one of them to trade.
Now.
That's right. Now they have 2.
Again, we get the facts are laid out. It's the most expensive team in NBA history. Unless they get things right soon, they're not even going to make the play in. And, they have major handcuffs in terms of blowing by the second apron, the roster, building restrictions that come with that, the future draft capital. I'm just telling you, Matt Ishbia and the people that are working for him, the people that are in Phoenix on a daily basis, they feel like they can, to use Ishbia's term, pivot and reload. It's not rebuild, pivot and reload around Devin Booker.
Okay. You also have very interesting comments in this story from Bradley Beal. Again, the best parts of this story are not McMahon's words. They're the primary source's words. Beal, I thought he had 2 interesting things to say here, McMahon, but I will let you, who did the conversation, talk about what Beal said.
Again, do you have the quotes in front of you?
Okay. Well, my favorite Beal quote is he's talking about how he feels like, I have a great job, but I'm a human being. And he's like, I enjoy the game. The game is fun. I try not to let nobody take the joy out of the game from me. But it's hard. We're all human beings. We have every right to shut down. We have every right to question what's going on. We have every right to say, why me? But I feel like that just drags you down a little bit more than you need. And this is my favorite part. I'm still playing in the NBA. I still have the best job in the world. I still have my no trade clause. So I'm smiling every day.
There he goes.
That was one quote. He talked more about the label, about that he's never won anything, but I'm going to leave that alone. The key thing here, and this is, you tell me whether you think this is newsworthy or not. You were asking him about the no trade clause, which he apparently smiles every day that he has. And you referenced that he was really not interested in waiving it at all. The idea of being traded midseason.
No, yeah, he did not want to be and just like Kevin Durant spelled out, I believe when he talked to Malik and again when he went on the Draymond Green show, like he didn't want to have his life uprooted in the middle of a season and be thrown into that and all that. And Beal certainly didn't. Beal, a husband, a father, young kids, he didn't want to uproot his entire family in the middle of the season. But he said it is a different deal in the summer. Everything is kind of more laid out on the table. You got more options. And he's not saying I'm out of here this summer. But he's saying, listen.
He's saying something obvious, but he's on the record. It's a different deal in the summer.
Yeah, he's saying, look, this summer, he's going to consider what some potential scenarios are, whether there's something that makes sense for him. And look, that like this team, the 10 seed in the West, like the Mavericks are literally scrambling to put together enough bodies to have the NBA minimum for games right now. And the Suns just can't make up any ground. They're still 2.5 games out. The Suns are 6 games below 500. And they
had a game the other night against Memphis where they lost. Durant had a shot at the buzzer that would have won the game. It was not the greatest shot in the world, but it's Kevin Durant. He could have made it. And it was the 4th time this season that Durant has had a shot in the last 30 seconds to either go ahead or beat the Grizzlies. And they're 0-4.
Yeah, and listen, the Suns got off to an 8-1 start, and I was there the night they went 8-1. It's when Durant suffered a calf strain that nobody knew about until the next day. But in that 8-1 start, almost every single game were these clutch wins. And you're thinking, well, okay, they're winning games in clutch. But, that's why point differential, especially early on, is oftentimes a much better indicator than even the win-loss record. But think about that. There were 7 games above 500 a couple weeks into the season. Now they're 6 games under. I mean, that's how rough. And like Beal's missed some games. Durant missed a little bit there, but certainly compared to last year, they've been relatively healthy this year. And like, dude, they thought, like the Tyus Jones signing this summer on the minimum, we all thought that was a great move. It addressed their biggest roster flaw from last year. Frank Vogel is the fall guy. They bring in Bud. Honestly, there's been a lot of friction between Bud and players on that roster. I would say most importantly, Devin Booker, because that is the guy who they will build around moving forward. Like Ishbia said, hey, if I knew what the problem was, I'd fix it right now. They don't think they're that far away, but they don't know exactly how the hell they got in this situation now.
Well, the problem is Matt Ishbia. That's the problem. And I appreciate him.
I think it's a little bit more complex than that.
It's not more complicated than that. Because here's the thing. I very much appreciate Matt Ishbia talking about all this on the record. And I very much appreciate a guy buying a team and wanting to win. And whatever else you want to say about Matt Ishbia, he wants to win. And he is spending draft picks and spending money, and he's committed to trying to win. Like he had a great quote in here about fans don't care about the luxury tax. Every fan should want to hear the person who runs their team saying that, right? He's put his money where his mouth is. He spoke on the record about all this stuff. He defended his actions. That's all well and good.
He is passionate and he cares.
Yes, which is great. Well, truly, it's like that's what you want for the person running your team. But I want to go back to the quote about rebuilding because it sums up the situation so perfectly for where this team is at. Are you crazy? You think I'm going to go for 7 years and try to get there? You enjoy the 2030 draft picks that we have holding. I want to try to see the game today. I want us to win today, and we're going to try. This isn't baseball where you can just spend money and spend your way out of problems. There's a salary cap. There are rules governing transactions in basketball.
Yeah.
You can't just throw more after more after more and fix the situation you're in. The problem for Ishbia and the Suns is they have dug themselves a gigantic hole and they can't dig out of it. And they dug themselves that hole because Matt Ishbia was saying, we're going to be as aggressive as possible. We're going to trade everything else we have nailed down to get Bradley Beal. After we traded everything we had nailed down to get Kevin Durant. Now we have this incredibly top-heavy team. We can't make any moves to deepen out the roster. They could be on their 4th coach in 4 years, in about 3 or 4 weeks. Like, these are all moves that point to, yes, he's incredibly aggressive. Yes, he's incredibly ambitious. Yes, he really wants to win. But you have to have some level of patience and discipline in running a team. And the Suns, for the past 2 years, he's only owned the team for 2 years, have had hit the foot fully down to the floor the entire time. And that's why they have absolutely no assets and they have nowhere to go, because they could say, yes, we have options on what to do. And he's right. Like, he's let his basketball people handle the draft, and they've done a decent job in the draft. They also don't have any draft picks going forward. So it's going to be hard to do well in the draft. And, like, yes, they could trade Kevin Durant this summer. He basically said, we'll look at trading Kevin Durant this summer. Like, Kevin Durant, as you said, Tim, has 1 year left on his contract. He's going to have a lot of say in where he winds up. He's also 37 years old. They're not going to get the kind of haul back that they need. Well, he's going to be 37 this fall. They're not going to get the kind of haul back they need to rebuild this team around Devin Booker with no other flexibility going forward. And if Bradley Beal's willing to go somewhere, it's because it's a place Bradley Beal really wants to go, and he likes the team that's left over afterward because he has a full no trade clause. So,
well, and frankly, they might have to incentivize a Bradley Beal trade.
I mean, that's the thing. They don't have any options.
All right, we can talk more about the Suns later this summer. I just definitely read this story.
Story's incredible.
But it's interesting also that I'm in Houston. I saw the Rockets beat the Suns last night. You know, the Rockets also have a brash billionaire, still relatively new owner, but they are complete polar opposites in terms of the approaches of the franchise. And, you know, the Rockets, who now hold significant draft capital from the Suns moving forward, also have the Mavs 29 pick. They've got.
Yeah, having said that, I don't want to go down to a long road here because we got to end the podcast, but they made a very aggressive trade for Russell Westbrook that mortgaged their future.
Right. And then they learned from it.
Right.
And
and then what did they do?
Rafael
They
Stone
traded James Harden.
Well, and they had to, right? They didn't want to. They had to. But when they did that, they said, okay, it's time to go through some pain. It's time to be patient. It's time to go through a major
they went
rebuild.
through what Ishbia said he would not, which is the rebuild.
And Tillman Fertitta had to be talked into it by his son Patrick, by Rafael Stone, and he had to be convinced along the way to stick with the plan. They did it. They're good now. And now the story that I'm working on with the Rockets is, okay, now you're a good team. You're a star away. How aggressive are you going to be in the trade market versus kind of continuing on the bets of maybe it being homegrown? And then, you know, that's going to be a fascinating thing to keep an eye on with the Rockets over the next, you know, certainly this summer and perhaps over the next couple of years.
And Devin Booker deserves a ton of credit for saying on the record, too, that he has no desire to go anywhere and he wants to be a one franchise player, too. I know he said it. It's not like it's a new message, but like,
given
good for him.